Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video and welcome to Le Mans Ultimate. Yes, we're here today with our first look at Motorsport Games' newest title. Yes, a company that has certainly had its fair share of controversy in the last few years, and this kind of feels like a bit of a last Hail Mary by Motorsport Games to try and sort of save themselves, save the brand, and save kind of all these licenses that they've had kind of crowded in over the last few years. Quickly, before we get into this video though, I have not been given this game. This is not a sponsored video. I have bought the game. I have paid my £25. Whether wisely or not, we'll find out very quickly, I'm sure. And this is going to be my full honest feelings about it as well. Then, of course, a lot of the reviews you probably would have seen so far will have been from people that were provided the game. And not for a second am I going to suggest that people are going to, you know, try and claim it's better than it is because they've been given it for free. But it is certainly something that you must consider as well. Now, of course, for those of you that don't know what Le Mans Ultimate is all about, it's pretty simple. Clue is in the name. It is a hopefully kind of a simulation of what Le Mans has been in 2023. A little bit sad that we aren't getting 2024 immediately, but it is what it is. So you get 7 tracks, of course, the 7 tracks from the 2023 World Endurance Championship. So we've got Sebring. I've been doing a little bit of laps around the Autodromo Internazionale Algarve, lovingly known as Portimao to my fellow Formula 1 fans. Obviously, we've got Spa, one of the greatest tracks in the world, and of course, the Circuit de la Sarthe as well. It'd be a pretty bad Le Mans game if it didn't have the Le Mans circuit. Monza as well, of course, Fuji, and at the season finale from the real-life calendar as well from Bahrain. And immediately noticing, definitely seems to be a little bit of lag in the menus, which is not a particularly good start. Now, I probably also should just mention, this is obviously a beta version of the game. It's still a work in development at the moment. So £25, unless this game goes on sale, is probably going to be the cheapest it's ever going to be. So I'm guessing, of course, you've kind of got to look at it as, will this be a worthwhile investment? Is it worth paying the £25 now? And then hopefully in the future, you know, if the game is £40 or £50, obviously you know you'll have got in cheap and won't have to worry so much. That only time will tell. You know, like we said, Motorsport Games have been rather patchy with the way things have been in the last few years. Of course, you've got the hypercars, the LMP2s, and the LMGTE cars. So if we take a quick look at what there is available to us, we have got the Cadillac. Obviously, you've got all the liveries and everything like that, as you would hope for from last year as well. You've got the Cadillac LMC 55R. We have got, of course, the Le Mans winning Ferrari 499P. We have got the Scuderia. Hopefully, we have got the Scuderia Glickenhaus SGC 007. We have got the Peugeot 9X8, the Porsche 963. Any of the cars as well that are also in iRacing, I'm going to try and do a direct comparison of in the very near future. The Toyota GR010, which pretty much won every race last year that wasn't Le Mans. And of course, last but not least, the Vanwall 680 as well there. A car that, of course, won't be at Le Mans in 2024. Quickly taking a look at some of the other cars as well. Obviously, just before we dive in to... Apparently, it's going to take me all the way back to the main menu then. So I'm not too sure what that is all about. Well, we'll do a race at Fuji then. Okay, we'll do that. P2s, you only get the one. It is, of course, the LMP2 Orica. So we've actually now got a comparison between this and the Dallara that iRacing has. Obviously, everyone now uses the Orica in the LMP2 class. You could theoretically use the Dallara, but people just didn't want to because motorsport. And then last but not least, the LMGTE cars. We have got the Aston Martin GTE Vantage. That thing sounds incredible. We have got the Corvette C8R GTE, which sounds incredible. We've got the Ferrari 488, isn't it, of course. Feels really old now to be saying that, which sounds good. And you have got the Porsche 911 RSR, which again sounds incredible. Now, Obviously, most people were kind of interested in how the LMDHs are going to handle. I am going to be doing some racing as well in the LMP2s and the GTE cars. So yeah, don't worry, I will be covering some content on that. I really want to try and cover as much of this game as possible, if it's any good. So let me know down in the comments below what you would like to see. But today then, we'll jump in with the hypercar class. I was kind of torn. I kind of like the idea of racing some of the back markers, so it was kind of a toss-up between the Glickenhaus and the Vanwall, and simply Vanwall don't hate sim racing. Scuderia or Cameron Glickenhaus does. So we'll rock the Vanwall today and see what this thing is made of. Right, well, here we are then. Must admit, loading screens are a little bit slow, but that kind of doesn't matter too much if the game is good. Now, obviously, before I dived into this, I did one quick kind of practice run, make sure everything was set up properly. First thing I'll say, very impressed with the fact that everything kind of just works out the box. LEDs, I'm obviously on Fanatec gear, just worked. You know, it was all kind of set up, and it felt drivable-ish. But that was done in an LMP2 car, so obviously try and not kind of let all my experience in immediately, as that is certainly one way to make our way out of turn one. Very, very cold tyres. I'm not, you know, expected to be competitive or anything like that over the course of this session. I'm not really looking at kind of times against the AI either. I think I'm running like 90 AI or something like that. This is really, you know, my first impressions of the game. And looks like, well, the LMP2 car, I definitely need to tweak the brakes. I nudge those and immediately we're going into a little bit of spin. But yeah, for some reason the steering on this thing now doesn't line up, which is very odd. Like I said, in the LMP2 car I drove, it worked straight out of the box. Now, it doesn't. Right, well, I've hopefully sorted out the steering then. If it's just, you know, different cars have different steering ratios, I don't think I can really hold that against the game all too much. I've also tried to tweak the brakes slightly to see if that gives us anything. Cold rubber, though, as you... Great. The AI, clearly... I mean, I don't think you had to give me much room there, but clearly didn't feel like it either. Can we try and get back on the road at some point, please? Right, but immediately something odd then I've noticed is that whenever I go back to the pit lane, it tries to put my wheel in like some weird default setting, which is a little bit strange. That's not ideal either. So I don't quite know what's going on there. I think I might have turned damage off for this event rather wisely, perhaps. But yeah, that's a little bit of a strange bug then. So if you're on Fanatec, be careful. It might be trying to send you back to the defaults all the time. As, well, yeah, every time I try and put it back where it needs to be, it struggles. Setup, I mean, I'm running default now, again. I don't believe these cars came with ABS, of course, IRL. So I'm going to try and obviously be a little bit more careful with them. But, yeah, I just feel at the moment, I mean, I've kind of obviously seen what a couple of other people have been saying online about it. Obviously, the game is going to be heavily, heavily derived from R-Factor 2. Probably should have been what Motorsport Games did with every single one of their kind of, you know, releases up to this point. You know, NASCAR Ignition, that was a complete and utter flop, wasn't it? Because they just didn't... Well, I mean, the game never worked, did it? Never even began to look like it worked. I think I played it once and realised they were immediately in big trouble. But hopefully, you know, obviously if you don't like R-Factor, you might struggle with this as well. It's probably not going to be your idea of fun. We're definitely getting there. I think the braking is as much about me as it is the game as well. And of course, you know, as setups develop and things like that, maybe the cars will come a little bit more drivable. Not a fan of all the head movement. I get obviously for some, I'll probably quite like that, you know, adds that little bit of extra immersion. For me, yeah, that would probably be disabling that rather quickly on this game. But, car sounds good. R-Factor, you know, it's certainly not a game that we say, you know, it's got the best sounding cars in the world, but what R-Factor's always done well, of course, is that tyre model, and already you have seen just there, having a little bit of a slide. We'll do another one just to showcase what it looks like as well. But yeah, I said did a little bit of a practice, and one of my mates sort of asked me how I was getting on with it, and I kind of said it feels a little bit like watered down R-Factor. Now, of course, the game's only on PC at the moment. I'll be honest, I would be surprised. I know obviously they've said it's coming to console. I would be surprised if it ever makes it to a console title unless it's an overwhelming success on PC. Simply for the fact that I don't think motorsport games will have, you know, the time or the development or the budget, to be honest, to try and actually port this game over. So if you're on console and you want to play this, find yourself a friend with a PC and 25 quid to spare, because, yeah, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I don't think we'll ever see it make it to the console side of things. However, other things, very impressed with so far. HUD, MFD, there's a lot of detail. It's fantastically laid out. I think, you know, instantly you feel like you kind of know where you're navigating, you kind of know what you need to look at. I don't really feel there's anything on the screen that I don't want, or anything not on the screen that I would like particularly. Maybe wouldn't have minded having a spotter, but, you know, it's not hardly game breaking, is it? At the end of the day, you know, you've obviously got mirrors in these cars as well, so you should be able to spot your way around. Still can't quite get the hairpin nailed, but I'm getting better through there. But even then, of course, like I said, you know, you dive in, and I didn't have to dial any of this in. Obviously, using the multifunction toggle on this, I'm using the Formula V 2.5X, it just works. You know, you can cycle through, you can even scroll up and down, obviously on the appropriate menus as well, which I think is quite good. Weirdly, menus, you have to go back to mouse and keyboard, which is a little bit strange. But, you know, that's hardly the end of the world. I think you also probably need to... Actually, can you... So, yeah, it doesn't look like I can actually change any settings inside each one. As we're getting a little bit quicker and quicker there. You can see the suspension working overtime. Obviously, over the bumps here in Fuji. So we try and outbrake a GTE car there into someone. Optimistic, I think is the way we're going to describe that one. But we will obviously get the power down on the exit of the corner. That being said, though, it's one of those horrible things where, obviously, you know, with the past that motorsport games has had, you're kind of looking at this going, they've still got a lot of work to do. I'm happy they've labelled it, of course, as, you know, an early build version of the game, because obviously, you know, if you buy this and you're expecting a fully polished product, you're going to be waiting a while, I think, still. You know, maybe towards the end of this year, we'll sort of see a full version of the game sort of ready to go. And that's kind of what we've got to remember, of course. You know, this is still a work in progress title there. I mean, yeah, he's starting to build a little bit of confidence up in the car. You know, we'll allow it to slide around a bit more, you know, lean on those tyres like R-Factor is famous for letting you do. I want to try and sort of, you know, it's very, very easy, obviously, to compare it to some of the other motorsport games titles. But I want to sort of just take 1 second and go, if they develop this, if they give it the time it needs, could we end up in a scenario where it's a little bit like ACC? First couple of years, very underwhelming. After a while, it actually turns itself into a pretty good title. That's what I'm hoping will happen with this game, and that's obviously why I've purchased it now. You know, kind of just try and get in at ground floor level, if you will, as well. So, you know, if you're a big fan of Le Mans as well, and you kind of want something, you know, you want to just thrash around GTP cars or take out some of the GTEs, or you simply just don't want to pay for iRacing, view it. I think the best way to view it is like this. It's £25. Oh, hey, keep it out the wall. I'll go for a couple of pirouettes there for style points. View it as £25 DLC for R-Factor 2. For that money, you've got, what, 7 tracks? 17, I think, thereabouts. Though it might be slightly more. Yeah, about 17 cars, of course, with all the liveries. For that money, it's not bad. We'll obviously do a race in a second, see just how the AI fare in that regard. But I want to say, You know, immediately the fact this game is actually drivable is a big improvement over NASCAR Ignition. And, you know, the fact that obviously R-Factor have basically done most of it for this game as well gives me some hope. Maybe, obviously, if they don't just instantly shelve it, then there could be, you know, some potential for this game in the future. What they've done well so far, they have done well. What they still need to improve on, I think they already know, which is, you know, good. And of course, they are accepting feedback from people as well. Let's not forget that. I never knew that bump existed down here. For some reason, we seem to be absolutely plagued by that at the moment. But as I'm starting to get more and more used to the car as well, you know, how these GTPs drive on Le Mans. I keep calling it R-Factor. I know it's, you know, a completely different game, but I feel that's how most people are going to refer to it. You know, we've kind of, for the most part, got used to how the brakes work now. Still haven't quite worked out what I need to do through turn 3. But there's the potential there. It gets really light, actually, through, I think it's 100R, isn't it, around here. It really does like to over-rotate on the exit there. But I think this is going to be my last qualifying lap, or practice lap. And then we'll dive into a race. Let's see how all of the AI stack up. Like I said, I'm not on the hardest difficulty or anything like that, but just getting a little bit more seat time in. This car is becoming a lot more drivable, which is good. You know, it's kind of that thing, of course, that a game, obviously sim racing titles, you know, people kind of get lost in this idea that the more difficult it is, the more realistic it is. It's not always the case. Still, at the end of the day, one of these titles should, you know, you might struggle early on, but you should be able to get somewhere with it. No, obviously, I'm not going to be setting lap records immediately, anything like that. But if I can get into a situation where I feel comfortable that I can do a 15-minute race, then that's good enough. And immediately we've gone top of the board as well then. Let's move into a race here and sort of see what is going to be like. So yeah, I think we'll stay here at Fuji. Maybe we'll start from the pole. Right, well, what I immediately love then is you get kind of the proper Le Mans style formation lap, which is good. You obviously get the option to skip it and everything like that, but I can't really see who's next to me. So we're going to assume that, okay, we can definitely go then, because someone's jumped me before we've got going here, but yeah, we'll get sort of our first look at some of the other GTP cars as well. Oh, I know technically they're LMDHs on here, but GTPs on iRacing. I love licensing in video games. Tell you what though, that is definitely the most annoying thing so far. Every session, every time you go in the menu, it tries to send me back to the old default settings in like the experimental ones that Fanatec has. They need to patch that ASAP. Okay, so when you get around to the end of the lap then, it does split you up into 2x2 formation. Don't quite know what the bop is looking like here, but Porsche on the front row is certainly something I don't think we saw last year in World Endurance. Yes, I'm going to be definitely trying to watch more of it in 2024. Excited for Qatar next weekend, isn't it? But getting ready to go green then here. I think we're doing an 18-minute race here from Fuji. We've got Toyotas, we've got Porsches, we've got Ferraris, we've got Peugeots in front of us. But about to hopefully go green flag racing. 60 kilometers feels like walking pace in these GTPs. But obviously as we wait for the LMP2s and the GTE cars to close in, not quite how it runs in real life, but it's okay here as I'm practically pushing Antonio Fuoco as we get ready to start. And I've been caught napping immediately then. Just came out of the throttle at the wrong time, so I'm going to be hounded as we make our way down in towards turn 1. Oh, hello. Getting Toyota there, trying to get the elbows out with me as we make our way into that first corner. AI doing a couple of little bit of strange bits there. Clearly trying to lock onto a line that kind of didn't seem normal, but, you know, it is AI at the end of the day. I'll never be fully perfect there. There's already a little bit of bumping and bashing. Toyota gets a big slide through the next corner as, well, we've been shuffled right to the back then. I just see a Ferrari. Yeah, clearly the render distance or amount of cars rendered in is maybe set a bit low. I haven't really tweaked any of the graphics configs running this on 4K with an RTX 3090. Oh, no! Toyota's going to tip me around again. Luckily, we'll keep it out of the wall. The grass is also very, very slidey. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So this race now has suddenly turned into trying to fight my way back through all of the slower traffic then. We did end up with some good pace in practice, so should be doable. And I guess it gives us a look as well at all of the GTE cars. But yeah, 16-minute race though ahead of us. Sorry, 60 minutes left of this race. Even if it was an 18-minute race, I said it to. I do fancy, you know, if this game works well, doing like some mini World Endurance series. Probably not on this channel, probably somewhere else. Which could be quite cool there, as we'll go down the inside of about 17 Porsches, it felt like. But immediately then, let's see. GTE versus LMDH car. There is a slight speed advantage for us, which I guess is quite good. So we'll try and move past as many of these as we can. Looks like Ferrari are one of the quicker cars in the GT class there. I was braking down in towards turn 1. I always forget, of course, that the braking distances aren't that much different. Obviously, because you're carrying all that extra speed. Yeah, you're pretty much on the brakes at the same time there. As I think we've got one sole Corvette in this field, and it is leading, I think, yeah, Nicky Katzberg at the wheel. So, well, it hasn't taken us long, as you would hope, to try and get back around all of these GTE cars. Looks like, yeah, the field is still all fairly bunched up as well, so maybe we're not going to end up all the way down in last place then, as I feel like the AI, in some cases, no, I'm trying to not squeeze them or, you know, be a dick to them or anything like that, but trying to sort of just test their, you know, kind of their adaptability on the line. Very much seems, some of them will give you room in places, but other times kind of feels like they're locked in on, I must go this way at this angle, whether you're there or not. So it feels again like they're not on a bad baseline, as about 16 LMP2 cars are almost going to come to blows. But it certainly feels like there's still a little bit of work that needs to be done. Of course, even there, I mean, I sent it in, and one of the LMP2s did kind of jump out of the way, which is good. Obviously, straight line speed advantage this time round will be much, much less than it was on the GTE cars there. So that was apparently purple in Sector 2 and Sector 3, which I suppose is quite good. And yeah, we're still not a million miles away from... we're going to be further away now. Sorry. Maybe just overcook that slightly back into that turbo braking zone. But yeah, we're not a million miles away from the other end of DHs, but like I said, not really too worried about that in this first test there. Feedback, curbs feel very, very aggressive through the wheel. I've already altered that slightly. I might do like a kind of very basic wheel settings video. Hello, that guy kept me straight, thank you. But yeah, curbs I immediately had to turn down slightly. They were very, very aggressive on this game. Apart from that though, most of the other stuff, obviously I like to run it quite high. Sorry, I just knew immediately. Yeah, okay, we're going to get completely turned there. Yeah, I kind of knew, of course, I like running it quite high on most games anyway. So I didn't think that would be too bad. I don't think we got damage on, have we? Yeah, the car would be wrecked by now, I think. But it feels fairly balanced. Like I said, I definitely need to disable kind of the head bobble, if you will, because, well, apparently we're just basically going around this track like this all the time. You know, porpoising like a 2022 Formula 1 car, apparently inside the cockpit. Need to try and get back past all those GTPs. We're like 10 seconds back now, behind Luc Duval in that Peugeot down in 12th place. But we're also on a track with, what, 30-odd cars? 35, 36 cars? I wouldn't say it's doing too badly either, you know, considering, as we said, this game, you know, is in development still. You know, it's not a stuttery mess on lap 1. It feels pretty decent. You know, obviously, it's not rendering too many cars. It would be nice. I probably, you know, I need to up that in the graphic settings. See, obviously, if we can render a few more cars as well, because, you know, it's certainly you don't really want cars popping in and out. I get on that one, you know, unless you're rendering everything, you're going to struggle with that a little bit, but I couldn't tell you how many we are actually rendering at the moment. AI seem to have some good battles with each other as well. You know, it hasn't just been static, they're all following each other around in a line. You know, we see right there, we accidentally ended up going 3 wide down in towards the chicane with a handful of them. What I love as well is that, although it doesn't seem to be quite consistent with the cars that I would expect to in real life, I don't know what BOP, or, you know, if the game is running one, seems like some of the LMP2s can pretty much keep up with the GTP cars as well, and which, of course, you know, did happen a couple of times. IRL in some races there, of course, you know, looks at Scuderia Glickenhaus and Vanwall over the course of that season, but tyre temperatures seem to move around a lot, which I think is something, obviously, you know, our factor prides itself on. So, you know, you have got to be managing those. You know, you can't quite cook a set of tyres, but of course, you know, even then when I had a bit of a slide through the penultimate corner, they will then go back down to normal pretty quickly, so they seem to adjust and adapt pretty well as well there. ERS, obviously, or battery, whatever you want to call it, hybrid, I'm pretty certain it's on automatic. I don't actually believe you can change them. You know, you might get a few presets in real life, but I don't really think you can actually do anything with it in real life either, so I'm happy with that, not having to really worry about it. You know, maybe it's like Formula 1 where you can try and whack it on occasion, but so I'm not going to try and do it too many times now. I don't know if you get safety cars or anything like that, or obviously full course yellows. Whoa, that Le Mans is kind of famous for with its 3 safety cars. That was a big dive on the Prema. And apparently now we've got some rain, which I hadn't planned for. So hopefully the track isn't going to turn into a skating rink pretty soon. But maybe we'll have to try and test our first pit stop then, as, yeah, here we go, Cadillac and Peugeot there. Peugeot looks well modelled, of course, for being a bit of a rogue shape. Oh, come on. Now we're definitely going to struggle to get straight line speed down. It's actually, yeah, that's the Interpol car has overtaken the Cadillac in this race there, which is pretty impressive. In terms of pit stops then, I don't know kind of what we change. I don't think you can. Oh, there you go. So you can scroll down and change things. Like I said, I probably need to try and change some of my binds for that. So this has suddenly turned into a much bigger kind of test than I was expecting. Dry to wet, though. Seemed pretty seamless in terms of the transition. Of course, we've had cloud cover since the start, so I didn't really sort of think about that all too much. But yeah, it kind of seamlessly has started raining. Whether we'll kind of get to a point where, you know, the track is wet enough that we need to switch, only time will tell. Whereas, yeah, the AI definitely still on the lower side there. Don't think, I mean, that Peugeot lacked a bit of downforce throughout the season, but that was a bit ridiculous. Maybe he's rocking, you know, an even more low downforce setup than I ever had thought. But yeah, I mean, if we sort of see some puddles forming, that kind of thing, we'll kind of have a look at where they are on the track as well. But we might not get any of that in this race. You know, like I said, this was only really meant to be a first little tester. But we're already, you know, kind of not pushing this game to its limits by any stretch, but certainly covering a lot of bases in a very, very short space of time. As well, this lap we were pretty high up in the green. So despite the rain starting to fall, we are definitely getting more and more confident then, as they're 3 wide up the road. So who says the AI can't put on a little bit of a show? 4 wide as we make our way back down in towards turn 1 there. The way sometimes they're seemingly a lot slower than one another. Definitely seems a little bit strange, but that might just be a lack of confidence, as yeah, this track is definitely starting to get a little bit slick. Already over 10 minutes into this race, though. Will we close in on the GTE cars? That's the other thing I'm wondering at the moment. Could be cool to sort of see how the AI navigate laps and sort of slower traffic of one another there, as Porsche and Ferrari still almost 3 wide as we made our way up through 100R. Clearly finding a bit more confidence there, able to get the car stopped even with a wheel on the grass. Whoa! Yeah, that Porsche I think is starting to struggle. So we're back up then and into P7 of this race. You just got to be so sensitive. Immediately like that, I knew as soon as I touched the brake we were going to struggle there as AI, not fantastic through that. One of them hopping over the curbing, clearly panicking as to where I was, and then clearly had to serve a slowdown. But I mean, we get a quick look at all three of the Porsche car liveries, and we'll get another look at them as we'll go for yet another spin through the final couple of corners. Yeah, track is definitely getting slippy. Grass, I mean, it's like iRacing grass from most recent update. There is nothing at all you can do on it. Hence why we kind of find ourselves going for some spins earlier on and really struggling with that. But I think, you know, trying to manage everything as well is going to be really key on this game, and hopefully, you know, should provide you with some opportunity as well. You know, for some quite, you know, races that, you know, kind of shake things up a little bit as well. There got a bit of vibration coming through the wheel, so don't know if that's because we've flat spotted a tyre or anything like that. Seems to have sorted itself out once again then, so maybe it's just a little bit of sort of low-level rumble that I only really noticed on that first, or on the main straight around this venue. But I must admit, is it perfect? No. Am I enjoying it? Absolutely yes. On the other hand, it is. I mean, it's probably partly to do with how low the bar was coming into this. You know, motorsport games probably couldn't have shocked us much more than they already had. But it feels alright. Starting to notice less and less grip as well. As the track's getting a little bit more slippy. Is Arby going to get a slowdown penalty there? No. Oh. Yeah, times are slowing down there as well. That AI Porsche there maybe just struggling a bit more to comprehend what he's meant to be doing on a racetrack. Yeah, I think combination of obviously the AI being probably a bit too weak and obviously changeable conditions there, meaning they are struggling more and more. I don't believe, though, we're going to lap the GTEs, which is a bit of a shame. Oh, did not want first gear on that exit. First and second, really long on this car as well. But, yeah, times are definitely slowing down then as we get towards the end of this race. Obviously, multiplayer, I believe, is meant to be dropping actually quite soon. So maybe I'll have to try and do, you know, a bit of a longer race online. You know, perhaps like an hour or something, as it is so easy to just tip the tyres over the limit still. Got to be really careful with that. I kind of immediately know what I've done, but there is definitely going to be some more muscle memory required. You know, if you kind of want to get the car tipped in where you need it, sort of when you need it, as well as, well, that time around was just plain and simple over the curbs. It just got way too hot over the curbing, and clearly, as they get slicker and slicker, we are going to pay the price there. Back behind the GTPs again. This has been a very odd race in that regard. Quite funny, though, that one Cadillac of El Bamba is struggling so badly that he's actually dropping in through the LMP2 field, sorry, as this race continues on. But I think we've got 3 more laps after this one. Got to be so careful. You really got to monitor, actually. If you have a look at those little sets of lights on either side. So purple means where on the tyre is struggling with traction. As you can see there, both of them. Yellow is you're locked up. Oh, I got to rejoin the field. Yeah, I knew that was coming. Oh, man. So I also don't know when the clock hits 0 whether actually going to finish the lap or not. As old Bamba there, I mean, he's just crawling around, isn't he? It's probably time, to be fair, that we switched over to Inters, but I don't know how yet. So we're going to struggle with that one. Don't know, yeah, I have no idea how pit stops work in this game or anything like that. Can I do anything? I think you need to... Don't look at your MFD when you're driving. Yeah. Oh, no. Oh, dearie me. Don't look at your MFD whilst driving, because you find yourself having quite a nasty crash very quickly. 2 minutes left on the clock, though, so maybe it'll be just one more after this. yeah, the times are falling apart here. This has actually ended up turning into a real tough first test on this game because, well, yeah, there's just so, I mean, the way the grip has changed is quite impressive already. You know, slick tyres just do not work in wet conditions there, as again we get a little slide on through turn 1 and through turn 3. But, oh yeah, grip's gone. Grip has completely gone in this race. It has become a little bit undrivable now, which is a shame, I must admit. And like I said, you know, maybe had this race saved in half an hour, probably been worth a switch onto the Inters. You know, we would have tried to make that happen. Because it's not, and everyone else is just staying out there, then we kind of can't really. Yeah, let's try a pit stop then. Let's try and set ourselves up for a pit stop. Annoyingly, you've got to do all of the tyres individually, as I can't actually see how I'm meant to do it, which is a bit of a shame. I can't even scroll. I've changed something. Headlights on, so I know what my headlight button. No, that's my speed limiter. Time remaining. No, that's not helpful. Don't know what that button does. Yeah, that's a little bit odd, the way that all works. So clearly you need to set up more binds than I have. Still struggling then as we get ready. Oh, okay. Did not know that would do that. So we've got our little side toggle switches. Gotta make sure we try and keep that nice and centre. I mean, I have got sort of a couple of conical switches as well. Oh, there we go. So that does brake bias. That's interesting then. So that's good to know. What does the other one do? We're just having a bit of an explore now, late on in the day. That one does traction control. Okay. I'll give them credit then. They really have thought about a lot of the binds straight off the bat. Pretty much everything. I mean, this wheel's got a lot of buttons on it. So pretty much everything will do something. Those two... Oh, okay. So that is fuel. Is that one anything? Don't think so. That's a shame. So I might have to use that one. It's kind of like my option to change tyre settings and things like that. But clock has now struck 0. Times are completely falling off by myself and the AI. So I don't know if we'll see another lap after this one. But one thing I haven't spoken about yet, yeah, for the most part, graphics. Are they world-beating? No. Are they absolutely fine for a sim? Yes. Instantly. They've not done a bad job with that. Track feels like it's in a real place. You know, it feels like Fuji should, which is good. So I'm happy with that. You know, I certainly don't feel... If they announce that their next big thing is a graphics overhaul, I would say they've completely missed sight of what they should be doing. But, yeah, leaders have now crossed the line then, which is good. So we make our way through the final couple of corners. Are we going to be able to beat one of those LMP2s? Not with that amount of understeer out of there, but we'll mash the throttle as we try and make our way to the start-finish line. But Le Mans Ultimate, I don't want to say yes, grab it right now. Has it absolutely got potential to be a good game? I think, honestly, in theory, yes. If you want to, you know, if you've got 25 quid to spare, and you really sort of think, yeah, I wanna race some LMP2s, I want to race some hypercars or GTs, it might be worth a punt. It genuinely might be worth a punt in the hope that, of course, they continue developing the game. I really hope they listen. I really hope that Motorsport Games appreciates that they have actually got a game here that might be worth something, you know, that isn't worth just throwing in the bin pretty much immediately. So fingers crossed. They do stick with it there. Of course, it's a bit difficult to say, you know, whether they will or not with their track record. But if you've got 25 quid that you're not too worried about losing, I'd say go for it. Give it a punt. We'll see what happens. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below. Like I said, this was a bit like a first test drive, so we tested some stuff out. We were a little bit crazy. It wasn't too serious either. Like I said, I'm going to try and make some more content as well to try and out some different things. So yeah, leave a like, get yourself subscribed, and we'll be back very soon with more Le Mans Ultimate.